She spoke before the silence had finished forming in the room. Not loudly, not urgently. That was never her way. Cassandra spoke as if the future were something already settled, something heavy she had to carry carefully so it wouldn't spill onto others too quickly. But when she spoke, the air changed. It always did. At first, they had called it talent, a strange sensitivity, the kind of intuition priests sometimes pretended to possess so kings would keep funding their temples. Cassandra had been praised for it in those early days, when her words were still convenient. She would stand at the edge of gatherings and describe things that had not yet happened. A ship returning too late, a field burning before harvest, a stranger entering the city with peace on his lips and war already in his hands. And more often than not, time would quietly agree with her. But agreement is not the same as acceptance, because truth, when it arrives too early, looks indistinguishable from madness. They began to notice the pattern before they admitted it. Every time Cassandra spoke with certainty, something inside people resisted, not because she was wrong, but because she removed their comfort of surprise. She stole from them the illusion that they were still in control of what came next. And people will forgive lies more easily than stolen control. It was during one of those moments, when the palace was full of wine and laughter, when soldiers had returned from a minor victory and the city believed itself safe, that she spoke again. The room did not quiet immediately. It never did at first. Her voice had to cut through noise before it could be feared. "The gates will not hold," she said. A few laughed, not loudly, carefully, as if humor could soften prophecy into entertainment. But Cassandra's eyes did not move. "They will not be broken from outside," she continued. "They will be opened from within." That was the first time someone told her to stop speaking. Not because she was wrong, because she was uncomfortable. After that, something shifted around her. People still listened, but differently, like one listens to a storm from inside a sealed house, aware of its presence, unwilling to confirm it is real. The strange part was that Cassandra never enjoyed being right. There was no pleasure in it, no pride. If anything, there was exhaustion, as though every certainty she carried was something she had already lived through once and was being forced to relive again in fragments. She tried, once, to stop speaking. It lasted less than a day, because the future did not ask for permission to be seen. It arrived whether she welcomed it or not. And what she saw most often was not a single event, but chains. One decision locked to another, all leading forward with quiet inevitability. People liked to believe they made choices freely. Cassandra could see the shape of those choices long before they were made, like footprints forming in dust that had not yet been stepped on. That was what frightened her most. Not what would happen, but how gently it would happen. The warning of war did not arrive like thunder. It arrived like a conversation slowly going wrong, like a door that closes without anyone noticing who pushed it. And Troy, her city, her prison, her mirror, never learned the difference. They called her cursed long before they called her prophet. It began with Apollo. That part was never spoken of loudly in the halls, but it lived in the way people looked at her, like someone who had once been touched by something divine and then rejected it. There had been a promise, once, a gift offered in exchange for devotion. Cassandra had accepted what she thought was understanding, the ability to see clearly, to know what others could not. But when the understanding came, it was not shared, it was isolating. And when she refused what came after, refused the price that turned vision into obedience, the gift remained, but without permission. That was the punishment no one understood. Not blindness, but clarity without influence. Knowledge without authority, truth without consequence. So she warned them, and they lived as if warning were a form of noise. The wooden horse appeared in her vision long before it reached the shore, not as a symbol, not as metaphor, but as a certainty so solid it felt already built inside her thoughts. She saw men inside it, breathing quietly, waiting with disciplined patience for the moment belief would weaken the city's judgment. When she spoke of it, the court fell into that familiar pattern again. Amusement first, irritation second, dismissal final. Some truths are rejected not because they are unbelievable, but because accepting them would demand action. And action is expensive. So they did nothing. And Cassandra watched the nothing become destiny. Days before the gates fell, she stood alone near the temple steps, The city was still alive and sound. Vendors shouting, children running, soldiers speaking too loudly about peace. It all looked permanent from a distance. That was always the illusion. A city does not fall when walls break. It falls when belief inside it begins to rot. Cassandra felt it happening like a slow fracture in the air. Not dramatic, not sudden, just an invisible loosening of certainty. People laughing a little too long, guards relaxing a little too much, leaders speaking as if outcomes were already secured. She tried once more. Not for them, for the shape of the future she was forced to witness. But no one came to listen, because belief had already chosen a different story. When the city finally broke, it did not feel like chaos at first. It felt like correction. Doors opened where they should not have. Flames appeared where trust had been misplaced. And the sound of realization, sharp, collective, irreversible, spread through the streets like something waking up too late to matter. Cassandra did not run. There was nowhere in the future she had seen where running changed anything. Instead, she moved through the collapsing city as if walking through something she had already survived in pieces. She saw moments before they fully arrived: the fall of a tower, the silence of certain rooms, the ending of voices she had once heard daily. Everything she had warned them about was now happening loudly enough that they could no longer pretend she had been mistaken. But by then, correctness no longer mattered. Because truth, once ignored long enough, stops being guidance. It becomes history. She was found in the aftermath, not as a prophet, not as a voice, but as someone who had simply been present too early, a witness no one wanted to acknowledge. And even then, in the ruins of what had been dismissed, she spoke once more, not to be believed. That part was gone. But because silence, for her, had never been an option. "I told you," she said quietly, not as accusation, as completion. And in that moment, the tragedy revealed itself fully. Not that she had been right, but that being right had never been enough to change anything at all.